Alright, today's how to play is going to be on Hoplomachus Victorum. So I'm back. I'm doing another how to play video. 2 times already this year. Oh, it might become a thing. Hopefully not. Anyways, today we are going to do a how to play on Hoplomachus Victorum, which is a recently delivered Kickstarter from Chip Theory Games. Before I jump into it though, I want to thank the members of the channel for supporting us. We play this game, we play Too Many Bones, lots of games over on the members' lives, so check it out. So we just did a playthrough video, live stream a couple weeks ago, depending on when this video comes out. It was actually yesterday for me, but here we go. So I'm going to kind of go over how to set it up, because it's not complicated, but it's a big game. So I'm going to go over how to set it up, and then I'm going to go through the different arenas, explaining the different arenas, kind of explaining how the game works, and then I'll give you my overall thoughts on the game. So let's start with how to set up. And I promise I'm going to try not to use OK, because Krissy said when she was editing my how to play for Too Many Bones, I said OK way too much, and she was going to start a drinking game out of it. It took her way too long to finish editing it. So maybe she did turn it into a drinking game. So the first thing you're going to do when setting up Hoplomachus Victorum is you're going to take out the mat. You're going to stretch it out. You're going to get your factions out if they're not already in the stadium seating. You get your sports cards and your bloodshed event cards and your opportunity cards out. You get your health chips out. You'll get your tactics chips out. You'll get your arena chips out. So you can tell they're arena chips, as they say arena on the back side of them. You'll get those out. And then you will have to make a decision. So you'll have all the different heroes. So there is 8 heroes. And you have to decide which hero you're going to play as. Looking over there. Okay. So, first things first. You need to decide who you're going to play as. I'm going to play as 𝒔𝒑𝒄𝒊𝒂𝒏𝒏. I'm not, I should have picked one that I could easily pronounce. But anyways, she's from Pluto's refuge area. So I'm going to pick her. You'll put them over here right now. I'll explain how to set up the hero section in a bit. So then you're going to take the rest of these, and you can choose which ones you want to go against, or you can put them in the bag and you're going to select 3 of them. And these are going to be your Primus fights. So after the end of each act, you're going to have to fight one of these guys. So you can do it randomly, or you can select whichever ones you want. So let's just take this guy, we'll put him there so they go up top. You can kind of put them in order from left to right if that's how you want to do it, or it doesn't matter. However you want to put them up there. There's 4 spots, 3 for the Primus, 1 for the Scion. So, say we picked those 3. The rest can go back in the box or just in a trick tray. It's up to you. Then you have to decide what Scion you're going to fight. I've got 𝒖𝒛𝒂𝒏𝒏 out, but there is a few of these guys. You basically take the Scion chip, goes in the last remaining spot, and on the Scion chip card, it will tell you the Scion Bane that starts the game with. So other than that, you don't really need this card. There's a little bit of information on the back, but you just need to know the starting Bane. So the Scion Bane will then go to the front of the Bane chips. So you can tell the difference. The Scion Bane is red, the rest of the Banes are orangish yellow. So these are all shuffled up, and then the Scion's Bane goes in the very front. I should mention that all the factions You can always see the first chip of each faction. You should shuffle them up kinda before you start and then put them in. So you always know the first chip the local unit for each faction will be. The opportunity chips, these yellow ones, you don't need to shuffle them. You'll search through them to select whatever an opportunity card tells you to take. So that is setting up your Primus and your Scions. So then you go over and you have to set up your hero chip that you selected. So I selected 𝒔𝒑𝒊𝒂𝒏𝒏𝒆𝒍. So you can take, she's from Pluto's Refugees. So you'll take that playmat. That playmat will be the starting area. So you'll put your little token on Pluto Refugees spot. There's a little temple building. So you put your little token on there. And then you take the arena for that area. So I got Pluto's Refugees arena already set up. It starts with the beast tokens for the arena beasts. Then you have to set up your hero. So you have to go to the manual to see how each hero is set up, what unit each hero start with, what tactics each hero start with, and what their stats are. Grab the manual here. It is on page 38, 39. So you'll need to go to this section and you will tell you how to set up your hero. So I've got 𝒔𝒑𝒊𝒂𝒏𝒏 right here. There's a movement of 2, a range of 1, a health of 5. She gets a green attack dice and a yellow attack dice. She's an attacker class. She has leadership 5. Tells you the home region, arena. Units, what units start with. So she starts with an archer, a defender, and a tactician. And that the tactics are adrenaline, bolster, and hamstring. Okay, so that's how you can tell how to set up your hero. Then you have to select what the difficulty is. If you're new at the game, or you've only played it once or twice, you might want to select the easiest difficulty. I've got 2 for movement, 1 for range. That's the attacker spot. I said 5 health, 5 leadership, but because I'm starting on easy mode, which is like simple, it gives you +1 health, +1 leadership, and 8 blessings. So I've got 6 health, 6 leadership, 8 blessings. I've got the green dice, I got the yellow dice. We're currently on Act 1. We're in week 0. I've got 0 Scion influence, and I have no Banes. These are just remaining pegs for marking off additional die that you can gain during the game. So on easy mode, you get to select 3 hero prowess cards. So you have the game has hero prowess for the specific hero. It has the image of the hero on it. So you can select any 3 of them to start the game with. And these just give abilities. So I've selected Sound of the Drums. If 𝒔𝒑𝒊𝒂𝒏𝒏 is your first unit deployed, she's not dazed that turn. Do Not Fear Death. 𝒔𝒑𝒊𝒂𝒏𝒏 heals for 1 HP when she is the first unit deployed. And I got Punishing Foe. 𝒔𝒑𝒊𝒂𝒏𝒏 has Retaliate as an innate ability. So they go over here on this nice handy dandy mat. The mat's nice. It has a spot for everything. So that is setup. We have our heroes. We have our tactics. You can never have more than 3 tactics unless you have prowess card that allows you to have more. That is setup. That is kinda, we are now at the start where we could play the game and start our adventure. So like I said, the game is played over 4 acts. Acts 1, 2, and 3, you will have to fight the Primuses. And Act 4, you fight the Scion. If you die, if your character ever runs out of health, you die. Unless you have a blessing to use, which you immediately use to recover all your health back. If you have 1 hit, 1 health left, you suffer 2 damage, you're dead. You use a blessing, you recover full health back to max health. So that's how blessings work. Blessings also work as if you're in battle and you do not have full unit size up to your leadership, and keeping in mind your hero counts as part of your unit size, you could use a blessing to draw more units from the bag to fill out your roster. I also should mention that the rest of the neutral units, that the ones that you do not select, that say neutral on it, the ones you don't select for your team go into the bag, which you'll draw from to build. So the most complicated thing about this game is movement and attacking. And it's figuring out where they're going to move to. That's the most complicated thing in this whole game. The rest of it is just, you know, you have abilities that you need to learn, which you can pick up. There's not that many of them. But it's just figuring out all those edge cases where you're like, should it move over here or does it move there? We'll go through it. I'll kind of explain each arena's targeting ability, and we'll go through kind of a first turn as well for how you're supposed to select. Starting off the bat, you start off in the temple, as I mentioned. From the temple, depending on the hero, they each have their own temples. You get to make a choice. You have to travel. So you follow these dotted lines, which can be hard to see depending, but you can either select a sport event or a bloodshed event. So let's go and explain a sport event first. So for a sporting event, there are 3 different types: capture the flag, king of the hill, and a spar. So for capture the flag, the goal is, here's the flag token. It starts on the number 1 space of the rival unit space, deployment space. So it would start here. The goal of capture the flag is to get one of your units from your starting space over to the flag, pick up the flag, bring it back to your starting space, any one of your starting spaces. That is the goal of capture the flag. The rival units don't care about the flag. They'll use it as a targeting if someone's holding the flag, but they go over top the space of the flag. They won't touch it. King of the hill, you have to be on key hex space. So the key hex space are basically the little hill with the crown on it, or the king of the hill symbol. So there's 2 of them. You need to have your unit on one of these spaces at the beginning of your turn to gain a point. And you need 6 points to win King of the Hill. So you use these dice with the numbers on it to count. If you have 2 units on these both, you will gain 2 points at the beginning of your turn. So you need to get up to 6, which is hard because you basically need to stay there and fight everything off. And then the last sporting event is sparring, which is you basically need to defeat everyone except the Tribune. Now I haven't explained the Tribune. So each one of these events has a Tribune. The Tribune uses this chip right here. And basically, you do not want the Tribune to die. You want the Tribune to live, because if the Tribune ever dies, your hero automatically, deployed or not deployed, goes down to 1 health. So you do not want the Tribune to die. If the Tribune dies, you go down to 1 health. You continue on. You don't lose, but you don't want to. Hero's health is hard to come by. So also, again, like I said, you do not want the Tribune to die, but if you do kill it and then you kill everything else on the table, you also win the event. Doesn't matter if it's capture the flag, king of the hill, if there's no one left, you win. But you're going to suffer that penalty of killing the Tribune. For deciding who the Tribune's going to be, for capture the flag or king of the hill, you decide after the lineup's been made who you want to be the Tribune. During a sparring event, the first unit in the lineup is always the Tribune. So let's set up for this sporting event. We can decide what we want it to be after. So we got Wings of Change, and we're playing in the Pluto's Refugees Arena. So the Pluto's Refugees Arena has these 2 beasts. Now these can be randomized at the start of the game. I usually flip them over to shuffle them around a little bit. They start with 3 health, 4 health, so you take chips respectively. Now the enemy units use blue dice, or blue chips, and your units use red chips. And that is how you can differentiate between your unit and the rival's unit, and your units. To build the rival's lineup, the first one is a local unit. Now we take the local unit for the arena that we're at. So we're at Pluto's refugee. So this guy. And it is a Fury, so it goes right at the first. Then it's 2 bag units. So you go in the bag, and you take 2 units out. Then if there is a little T at the bottom left of the chip symbol, so for the local unit, he does have a tactics chip. So you have to look at what the unit is. So for a tactician, he gets hamstring. That's the tactic that's available. You can easily tell which unit gets which tactic, because if you look at the tactics, there's 4 different of them, so there's not a lot. Adrenaline is for the attacker, stun is for the defender, bolster health is for the archer, and hamstring is for the tactician. It has a little unit symbol in the left side of the chip. So this is now where we need to decide what we are doing. Are we doing Capture the Flag? Are we doing King of the Hill? Or are we doing a sparring event? Because that will decide who the Tribune will be. So if we do a sparring event, the Fury here has to be the Tribune. If we do Capture the Flag or King of the Hill, anyone can be the Tribune. So let's say we are doing a Capture the Flag event. So immediately we'll put the flag out here. We will select whichever unit we want now. It's our choice. We'll say the archer will be the Tribune. And so we just basically put that chip right underneath the archer's chip so that we remember that when we deploy it. Then you take the chip that you're playing and it goes over here. So another thing to mention before I move it over there though, it also tells you how many units you can use in this battle. So I can use my hero chip and 1 camp unit. That's it for this whole battle. So you take your card and it goes down here, a nice little handy dandy spot. Right there. And then you will go through the different phases of combat. Now, if you ever get confused, I like to have this out all the time, the rule book. And it basically reminds you of the sequence of play. Right? You got your travel phase. Then you have your event phase. So we are going over a combat turn sequence, so it breaks it down. So you score points, only the player during the King of the Hill event. So if we're doing a King of the Hill event, you score points for the King of the Hill spots at the beginning of your turn. Then you do deployment. Then you do tactic placement, movement, abilities, and then engaging. The rival will do all that. Then you will do all that. Rival will do it all back and forth until it is resolved. Let's go through it. So the rival goes first. So the rival is going to deploy the Fury, 2 health, range of 2, movement of 3. And it will go on the first base even though the flag's there. So the Fury is a tactician. So he has the innate ability tactical, and he has special ability agile. It also tells you what dice it rolls when it attacks. So once it moves, once it comes out, it has the ability to move because it is tactical. Tactical units can move. Usually when they come out, they're dazed. But tactical units can move. First strike, like this archer, can't move but can attack when it first is deployed. So those are the 2 things that allow it to do something when it first is deployed. So Fury has been deployed. Then it will check to see if it can place its tactic. There is no unit on the board to be hamstrung, and it would go down and check the next one if it could do that, and if there was another one, it would check that. And then once it does that, now it does the movement. So for this particular one, it targets the flag holder, the hero, or the weakest opponent. So since there is none of those things on the board, it's not going to move. There is no flag holder, there is no hero, there's no weakest opponent because there's no opponents on, so it's going to stay right where it is. Now it's my turn. Then I get to deploy. Now you can pick whichever unit you want, keeping in mind the lineup of the ability of here. So let's say I wanted to deploy the defender. It's 5 health. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Deploy the defender. Any one of these 3 spots, doesn't matter, I choose. Now the defender is dazed, it's not tactical, it doesn't have first strike, it's stuck there. I could then deploy a tactic. I could use adrenaline on it if I wanted to, which gives it +1 movement. I could use bolster health on it if I wanted to, which would gain 2 HP. Or I don't have to. Then it goes to move, and move I can't do any movement. Then it would go to ability, doesn't have an ability. Then it would go to attack, can't attack because it's dazed. And so that's the end of my turn. Then it goes to the arena turn. So not every arena has an arena turn. You can always look at the arena reference sheet. Now I'm going to explain each arena in a second here. So that is kind of the order of things. And then you just go back and forth. Now, I didn't move the arena. I'm not going to for this time. Just ignore those. Then it goes back to the other guy, or to the rival, and the rival gets to deploy. So deploy this tactician. It would go on the 2 spot. It's dazed, but it's tactical. Now, because they are tacticians basically can apply tactics to anyone, anywhere on the field. Normally, if you don't have a tactician, you have to be right next to someone. But because they have tacticians, they can apply their tactic anywhere. So they can apply the hamstring to my defender because they're tactical. So you just put hamstring underneath. Hamstring basically says, when you move, you can attack. Now that there's a target, they are going to target. This arena basically says target flag holder, hero, weakest opponent for movement. There is no flag holder, there is no hero, so it's going to be targeting the weakest opponent. So he would move here because he is range 2. He's not going to move up next to him if he doesn't have to. And then this tactician will move here because he cannot move through a unit and he can't go around. So then he will do his attack. A red die, you could roll it if you want to. They do provide a red die. But red is always a hit. So you would just take off a hit, come off. And if there was any other units that could attack, you would resolve that attack too. This tactician's range is 1, so it can't attack anything. And then it goes to my turn. I get to deploy a unit. I can deploy my champion out if I want to. I could decide to use a tactic chip if I wanted to. Now I can move. This unit is dazed, even though it's my hero. I can choose to move this up 1 if I wanted to. Then I can attack, which would be a black die. I roll my black die against this. It's a hit. Takes it off. And then that would be my turn. Then the arena's turn would trigger, and we would keep going back and forth. Okay, so that is how to do a battle. So the only thing that difference between a blood sport or bloodshed event is that there is no Tribune, there is no capture the flag. It's a battle to the death. So when units die on the board, you take their chip and you flip it back over depending on where they're from. So if you had a unit die, they'd be over here. If I had a unit die. So normally in a sporting event, these guys will just come back to life on your campsite. It has really no effect over here. It's just so you don't deploy them again. In a sporting event, the reward is you can either gain a tactic up to 3, any one you want, or you can recruit 1 unit from the units that were available during that battle up to your leadership ability. So you only ever get to recruit 1, but you can never go past the total leadership ability. Remember, your hero counts. So right now I have 4 units and I have a leadership of 6. So you get to pick from any one of these, even if they were defeated or not defeated, doesn't matter. Any unit that's not selected here will go into the bag. If it's a bloodshed event, you're not gaining a unit. You are choosing to either upgrade your health, upgrade your leadership number, upgrade any 1 die that you have, or add a new die at the yellow level. Those are the rewards you get for a bloodshed. Again, if it is a bloodshed event and you had a flipped over thing, this unit will also go back into the bag. It does not automatically heal. They do, however, if they were damaged during battles and after the battle, they reset their health. Their health just all goes back. They start brand new, fresh every battle, unless they die during a bloodshed event, which then they go back in the bag. Let's start going over the different arenas that we can go through. So right now, we are on Pluto's Refugees arena, and they have beasts. Now it says, it's got this nice little handy card here, and it tells you exactly about the arena. It says, the arena's turn, the beasts act during the arena turn. In any non-sport event, the beasts must also be defeated in order to win. So if you're playing a bloodshed event, both these beasts have to be defeated for the event to be over. Now it tells you the ability that these beasts have. Non-local rival units treat hexes adjacent to the beast as if they are blocked. Rival units will never place tactics on beasts. So they're scared of the beast. They do not want to get next to the beast. They will avoid these spaces. They can't go in it. And it also tells you down here, the two highlighted hexes are the key hexes. So those are for King of the Hill hexes. During setup, you place a random beast, which are these two units. There's only these two beasts. Face up on there with their health. It also says down here, Animal Trainer, local units will not be marked or targeted by beasts, nor will they mark or target beasts themselves. Local units ignore combat lock on beasts and opponents. So these beasts have combat lock and roaming. That's their two abilities on their chips, their innate abilities. So they move during the arena turn. For roaming, you roll a die, a numbered die, and there's this little handy dandy compass. He has a movement of 2, the Crimea, 𝒬𝒏𝒏. Yeah, let's go with that. Has a movement of 2, so you're going to roll this dice, the numbered die, twice. And each time you will move it. So you'll roll it once, it's a 1, so you'll move it in the 1 direction. Then you'll move again. We got a 3. It wants to move it this way. There is no hex space that way, so it doesn't move. Then you go and resolve this movement 1. And a movement of 2, roll it, it goes a 6. It can't go this way, right? Roll it again, 4, and it comes down. Again, remembering it keeps these hexes as blocked for rival units. So if there was a rival unit, I'm not going to put the health on it just because it's cumbersome. Say we already had these two guys were sitting there, they hadn't moved for some reason. They wouldn't be able to deploy this other unit here because this space is blocked. Right? So it just would not do a deployment that turn. If the beasts, so these guys will never, the rival units will never move into next to the beast, but let's say the beast ended up moving here. Non-local units, so neutral units, and non-local, so anything other than Pluto's refugee units, who are scared of the beast, and they will get locked by the beasts. So it's got combat lock. So basically now this guy is stuck fighting this guy. And they will fight it if they are in next to it. And so will the beast attack the tactician. So these guys roam the board, and they get in the way, and they're very good at killing the rival's tribune that you do not want to die. The targeting for this arena is flag holder, hero, weakest unit. Some arenas have different colors, but all these ones are bolded. So the bolded ones can be used as targeting and marking. So marking is for moving, targeting is for attacking. So they will always target this. So when they're moving, they will always target the movement, and it's within reach. So they're marking the flag holder if he's in reach, if he can reach him. If he can't reach the flag holder, they're going to look and be like, oh, can we reach the hero? No, we can't reach the hero. Okay, what's the closest, weakest unit in range that we can reach? Oh, there's none of them. So then we go back, and if there is a flag holder on the board, it will mark that, and it will move towards that, even though it's not going to reach it. If there is no flag holder on the board, but there is a hero on the board, it will target that one. If there is no hero on the board, it will go towards the weakest opponent anywhere on the map, even though it can't reach it. So the targeting and the marking is the most complicated thing about this game. So we can do a couple examples. So I'll put my hero out. We can give this guy this guy out. And let's say we got the flag holder. Let's say I have the flag. 3, 4, 5. Say my flag holder's right there. Okay, so I'm set up. They have a Fury out. I got my hero out, and we got a flag holder over here. So it's the Fury's turn to move. Now, he's always going to move to range. So the closest he can get to hit. That is his goal. So he's targeting, we start from the look at this, he's targeting the flag holder. So this defender is the flag holder. Can he reach the flag holder? He's got a movement of 3 and a range of 2. So he only has to move 2 spaces. Yes, he can hit the flag holder. So he will move 2. Let's say we had their archer out. And let's say he managed to get, the beast was up here for some reason. He managed to get his archer here. So now the same situation. You choose the order of what you want to move. So we'll resolve this guy. He's going to go in range to the flag holder because he can reach the flag holder. So he will move down 2. Now he's in range of the flag holder, he can hit the flag holder. Then the archer. Now the archer is not in range of the flag holder. Can't reach it. By moving 1, his range of 2 is not going to hit the flag holder. But he is in range of the hero, right? Because he's got 1, 2. So he's not going to move. He's not going to come closer because he can already hit the hero. So he's going to stay right there. Because it's always within reach. You keep going down the line within reach. I think, I've tried to explain priority. It is a little complicated, but I will kind of explain them all as I go. So that is Pluto's refugee arena. So let's start banging through them now, okay? We're not going to take so long to explain them. Well, we'll see. I say that now, but... So the nice thing about these is they're all double-sided. So we'll just start from left. We'll work our way right. We've already done Pluto's refugees. So we got the 𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒂𝒏𝒏𝒆𝒍. So the 𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒂𝒏𝒏𝒆𝒍 is all about elevation. The center hexes are the highest. Units that are above, I'm not using health chips, okay? I'll just use my hero to demonstrate. Units that are above, so higher up, will get a black dice. So let's read it out. So the 𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒂𝒏𝒏𝒆𝒍, the peak hexes are the highest point in the arena. Each column of hexes moving outward from the peak is 1 level of elevation lower than the columns before it, right? So it's getting, you're up high and it's getting down. So if you're above anyone else, you have the high ground. If you're more in the center. Units with the high ground add a black die to their attack at a higher elevation than their attack. If they are at a higher elevation than their target. So if you are attacking down, I would get a black die extra onto my attack. If I was attacking straight across, I would not get a black die, it would be down, and same thing if I was attacking down. Attacking up, I wouldn't get a black die. However, if the tactician was attacking me, he would get a red and a black die. The peaks, or the key hexes, are right here. So for capture the flag events. This arena has mountaineers, so for local units, all the 𝒏𝒊𝒏𝒂𝒏𝒏𝒆𝒍, so the brown chips, are considered local units to this arena. And they have a movement of 3 now. Doesn't matter what their movement is on their chip. For this arena, they have a movement of 3. And so this arena also has multiple targeting things. Some have only 2, some have 1. This one has 3. So if you're a Sea Strider, it'll have flag holder, highest hex adjacent to an opponent. Hero, strongest opponent, highest hex. If you are a archer unit, you're going to target the flag holder. Then you're going to target the highest hex in range of an opponent, and then you will target the furthest opponent. Same thing for all others. Flag holder, highest hex in range of the opponent, strongest opponent. So they're always wanting to get up high to attack, is basically what this map is for. So then you flip it over, which will go over to the Atlanteans. Now the Atlanteans has a arena chip, which is the Trident. Now this is even double-sided. So the Trident chip begins in the middle of the indicated hex, right in the middle. right on this little altar kind of thing. Now the key hex for this map is the trident. So you have to, as long as you hold this, you will get your King of the Hill point. The trident doesn't block hexes. So armed, when a unit shares a hex with the trident, they immediately equip it and place it between the unit's chip and its health. The unit holding the trident has trident throw now. Trident throw deals 2 damage to any opponent. If in combat, this unit must then unequip the trident and place it on the damaged unit's hex. The damaged unit immediately equips it if it's not defeated. And the rival units always use trident throw using the priority list to determine which unit attacks. And if it's a local unit that is doing the throwing, it gets +1. Doesn't matter if it's rival or your own if you have a blue unit, because the blue units are Atlanteans. So they would get +1. So instead of doing 2, they'd get 3. So like it says, as soon as you move onto the hex, you would put it between your health and HP, and now you have it, and it is a special. So attacking is normally rolling your dice, or you can choose to do a special attack, which you're just throwing, and it is just basically you target any unit out on the board, depending what their health is, you throw it, you hit someone, it does 2 damage. This guy only has 2 health, he dies, comes off. Trident's over there. So the next one is over to the new Argonauts. So for the new Argonauts, they have weapons racks. So a yellow die would go here, and then 2 blue die would go here. That's for setup. And so this arena is also a more complicated one. So normally you can only ever deploy 1 unit at a time per turn. This one is you are basically shackled together. So each troop with no units in combat must deploy 2 units if possible. You can have no more than 2 units in combat at a time. Units that deploy together are shackled and must remain adjacent to each other at all times. Units cannot block the opposing troop from deploying and are placed to an adjacent unoccupied hex if they would. Okay, so what it means is if you don't have anyone out there, 2 units are being deployed. So right now you're going to be deploying 2. So at Encore, when 1 unit is shackled, pair is defeated, its surviving unit troop has any units remaining in the lineup, the unit is immediately returned to one of the deployment hexes. If it is a flag holder, it drops the flag. Before doing so, the next unit in the lineup is immediately deployed on the troop's other deployment hex. The newly deployed unit is dazed. And so armed. That takes into these things now. When a unit moves on to the hex with a weapon, they immediately equip the weapon on the hex by placing the die on their chip. Units add their weapons to their attack. When a unit is defeated, their weapons are dropped on the hex where they were defeated. And then weapons advantage. Local units have perfect strike. So perfect strike is if they roll all hits with their dice, they do double damage. So for deploying, like I said, you have to deploy 2. So they deploy the Fury and the Archer because that was in row. It would go Fury on 1 and 2. And then the same thing with me, I would have to deploy 2 at a time and we'd be linked. When you move, you have to move at the same time, right? You can't just go, oh, I'm going to move 1 here, then move this one, then we can move that one, we can move that. No, you have to fully resolve the movement, right? So you're basically going to move around the unit, right? And then you can move around the unit this way, right? So let's say the Archer can move 1, this guy can move 2, I can go 1, 2 now, right? If it was my turn. Or I could go 1. I couldn't go up 1 here because I'd be shackled, right? So I got to go 1. I go that way, and then I could bring this guy 1 if I wanted to, right? And then same thing, if you ended up moving into one of these hexes, it would just put it up there to mark that you have the die. And so the targeting for this arena is flag holder, deadliest opponent, and unequipped weapons. So unequipped weapon here is not bold, so it won't attack unequipped weapons, right? But if it's in range and can get there, it will move there. It'll always, if it can't reach anything, it'll always go to the priority, the very first one working its way down. So that is the new Argonauts arena. So then we go over to Vesuvians. So the Vesuvians is this lava-filled one. So this is where you also fight the Scion. So the Vesuvian one is pretty simple. It's got Burning Ground. Units are immediately dealt 1 damage when deployed. Burning Ground is ignored for Scion event. And Pluto's Domain, when you're encamped, encampment moves on to the Vesuvian capital for the Scion event, gain a Bane for each unit remaining. So Pluto's Domain, that's for the Scion event. You don't have to worry about that. Tough and hide, local units gain 1 HP instead of being dealt 1 damage for burning ground. So if you deploy a Vesuvian, they don't get hurt, they actually gain health. The top 2 hexes here are the key hexes for King of the Hill. And the target is flag holder, hero, strongest opponent. If I was to deploy my hero, I would suffer 1 damage because of burning ground. If they were to deploy theirs, unless it is a local unit, it is also going to suffer. So this Fury has 2 health, but because it's being deployed here, it will also lose a health. However, though, if it was deploying this Magna Raider, he comes out with 3 health, he would actually deploy and get 4 because of Tough and Hide. So that is Vesuvians. So then we go over to Parthians. Now this is another one that has a arena chip. The Chariot. And the Chariot starts right here. So the races. Arena turn. The Chariot moves 3 hexes counterclockwise on the inner ring of the hex that circles the 2 central hexes. Any units standing on the Chariot move with it unless units in the way are displaced to adjacent unoccupied hexes in the outer ring if possible. If a unit would be displaced by the Chariot but is not adjacent to any available hexes in the outer ring, they are immediately defeated. Sandwalker, only local units can occupy the 2 central hexes. So you have to be a Parthian that you can go into these spaces. The Chariot is the key hex for this arena for King of the Hill. So it will move 3 hexes around at the end of your turn. So remember, rival turn, your turn, arena's turn. So to go 3 hexes around, it keeps going 3 hexes around. If I had a unit here, it's going to push my unit out when it moves, and I can displace it into any one of these hexes here, and then it will finish its turn. If there was a Parthian deployed and it was in its way, it was here, and it goes this way, it hits it, it pushes the Parthian into the middle first. Unless these are filled, then it'll push on the outside. So it really tries not to kill the local unit, right? It really gives the ability to not have the local unit die. Because if it is full, say somehow we ended up having it like this, and this archer was in the way, and now it's the arena turn, this archer has nowheres to go out of the way of the Chariot, so it would just die. You can spend a turn and jump onto the Chariot if you want to, and if it moves around, you move with it. Even if it pushes something out of the way, it just pushes it out of the way and it keeps going on. So the targeting will be flag holder, opponent on Chariot, unoccupied Chariot, hero, strongest opponent. So that is the Parthians. So then we go to the Amazons, which is right there. So this also has 4 arena chips. Now these are like moving pillars. So shifting walls, in the order of your choosing, move each monolith 1 hex in the direction its arrow points. All units in the way are displaced in the same direction the monolith is moving, if possible. Otherwise, they are not displaced. If a monolith is unable to move in the indicated direction, it is turned to face the opposite direction and then moves 1 hex if possible. So you see here, this is called the Champion's Die. So there's 4 key hexes for King of the Hill. Climbers for the local units, for the Amazonians. They have flight, which basically allows them to go over top of impassable objects, right? So blocked hexes they can go over top of. They can't just end their turn, though. They can't land in a blocked hex. So, and the targeting for this one is flag holder, opponents on the Champion's Dais, these 4 hexes. Strongest opponent, unoccupied Champion's Dais hex. On the arena turn, these things are going to move 1. You can choose whichever order you want, but they move 1. Right? And so they'll keep moving until they get to the end of the walls. And when it's time to move them again, if they can't move, they will turn around and come back. Okay. If there is a unit in its way, like that, and it's time to move, it will push the unit with it. If it's time to move again and say there's a unit here, but it can't push the unit off, it will just act as if it's blocked. It will move. This will move. So I like this one. It's pretty neat with the moving monoliths. All the arenas really feel different. I like that about this. So that is the Amazons. And the last one is Kunlun. Kunlun, attack down. Units on the platform have perfect strike when attacking unit not on the platform. So you got your platform here in green. Exhaustion, units that move onto the platform and from a non-platform hex immediately become dazed. So if you move up here, that's it. You're dazed for the rest of your turn. So you're not attacking. Lay of the land, local units are not dazed when moving onto the platform. So if you have Kunlun chips, if they move up here, they are not dazed. They can continue to do their turn. So these, like I said, are the key hexes for this arena as well. And it has two different targets. So for local, it'll be flag holder, platform hex in range of opponent, strongest opponent, platform hex. For non-local, it'll be consistent hex in range of opponent. So that is basically Kunlun. It's not too crazy, but it does, give you those floating hexes kind of platform that allows you to get up there and really shoot down. Perfect strike is nice if you can get it to work. That is going through the arenas. We've covered a bloodshed event. We've covered a sporting event. So now there is also these other spaces, opportunity spots. So if you move on to an opportunity spot, you get to draw 2 opportunity cards. You get to pick whichever one you want. You don't get to gain the reward yet. These are like mini challenges to complete during these different bloodshed and sporting events. So whichever one you select goes down here in the nice little handy spot. The other one goes on the back. So when you do a sporting event, a bloodshed event, and a opportunity event, you have to resolve cleanup. So after the end of all that, you always mark off a week. So if I completed a opportunity week, I would select my opportunity card, I would mark off a week, and then basically that is it. If it was a bloodshed event that I won, I would mark off a week, I would gain my reward, I would put all the dead units back in the bag and move on. If it was a sporting event, I would mark off a week, I would gain my reward of recruiting a chip and then flip over my camp units to normal and then put all the rival units into the bag. So then there is the 4th option you can do, which is spectate. Now spectating is kind of how you can heal your hero. So when you spectate, you still travel. So you can travel to whichever one, where you're from, right? So you move 1 space and you can spectate. So you immediately get to discard the front card of whatever event that you chose. So if it's a sporting event, you would take that and you just immediately put it in the back. You then get to look at the 3 next cards, arrange it in the order that you want, over the order you want, then you re-put it back. Then you fully heal up your unit, your hero, back to full health. Then you have to gain Scion influence depending on the act. So Act 1, you would gain 1 Scion influence. Act 2, you'd gain 2. Act 3, you'd gain 3. Act 4, you'd gain 4. Right, so since we're in Act 1, let's say, we'd only gain 1. If it ever gets over to the Bane chip, say, you would go up a Bane. You would go back down here, and you would gain the first Bane in the Bane chip, and you'd flip it over. It would either say bag or camp. If it says bag, it just goes into your bag. And when you are building the rival units lineup, if you draw it, that is when the effect goes in. There's also camp Banes, which just immediately go over here, and it is always a Bane. Right, so this one, Forgetfulness, you cannot have more than 1 tactic with the same name in your camp. So there's lots of Banes. But that is how you get them, and they are bad. You do not want, they're not beneficial during the Scion battle either, so try not to get them. But generally, you'll either get them from weird rewards or penalties on sporting events or bloodshed events, or from gaining it through spectating. So after you mark up that, you would then move on. You do not mark off a week for spectating. Right? The punishment of spectating is gaining a Scion influence. You don't have to worry about marking a week off. We've covered the different events that you can do. So there's one more thing on this map that you need to know about. It's the little harbor symbols. So if you move into the harbor symbol, you can mark off an additional week, and you can move to any other harbor. It's like a teleport to that harbor. So if I'm over here, I can mark off a week, and I can put myself over here and then continue to move down to the event. But it is a good way to quickly get across the board if you're looking for things. There's also these temples. You can only ever move into the temple of the Primus that you're fighting, and or the Vesuvian's temple if you're going to fight the Scion. Otherwise, you can never move into those spaces. So that covers moving, that covers events, that covers combat, tactics, banes. So there is different things though. So you do not have a card for the Primus battles. So you have to go back to the rulebook to figure out how to set up for the Primus battle. So you would go to page 30, and it tells you how to set up for the Primus battle. So if we are in Act 1, it tells us we get 3 local units, then the Primus unit. So if we were fighting this guy in the Lemosian area, this isn't the Lemosian mat, but don't worry about it. We would build this up. It is 3 local units. So we would draw the first 3 local units, and then it is the Primus. And then it tells you the health of the Primus. So this one would be 6 health for this Primus. So I like to put it under it just to remember, because I don't want to have the rule book out the whole time. And then the Primus is the only one that has a tactic. It's an attacker, so it gets adrenaline. So that would be setting up for the first Primus fight. Now again, this isn't the right map for this Primus fight. There's also other helpful things on the back of this quick reference guide. So there's different modifiers. So depending on the act that you're in. So the first act, this is as I explained it. At the second act, you automatically always add a bag unit to the end of the lineup with a tactic. Third act, you do the same thing as Act 2. However, the rival will also deploy 2 units on its first turn. And then Act 4, same thing as Act 3. However, now those 2 units that are being deployed, they also have +2 health on their first turn. This is a nice handy dandy reference sheet to have out. I always keep it generally nice out beside me to look at, because there's always lots going on and it's quickly easy to run down what's going on. So you'll do that. And then for the Scion fight, it tells you how to set up. It tells you what to go about. Anything on the back, this is just a little bit of flavor text. But this is how you will set up. You don't have to go to the rule book to set it up. So I think I've explained the game mostly. I could probably explain combat, give more combat examples if you want, but I did do a Act 1 playthrough already. So if you're curious about that, I would suggest go check it out. It really helps you figure out priority after watching it go around once or twice. So let's just do a quick review on the game now. I really enjoy it. The quality of the components are chip theory components, right? So you're looking at great components, but you're also paying for great components. I love this little stadium seating thing. It allows all the chips to be displayed, all the cards to be displayed. It is really, really useful. I have the deluxe health chips with the weight, but other than that, if you played Too Many Bones, Cloud Spire, they're the same health chips. The ones that come with the game are just those basic ones, except this one comes with the red and blue. All the unit chips are weighted, so that's nice. So they're good quality. It's Again, all plastic cards, neoprene mats, metal token for marking your location over here, plastic cards. This little hero tracker sheet, this was an add-on. Well, it was free for the backers of the Kickstarter, but going forward, it'll be an add-on, I believe. A game comes with a little notepad that you can write down, scratch off things and whatnot, which is equally as good, especially for saving the game. But I do like this, how it comes with the little swords sticking up in it. I don't know if you can see it. Right, like it is neat. I do enjoy it, but I know it will not be coming with it if you didn't get it with the Kickstarter. And I also have the deluxe bag from the Kickstarter that I bought. I added. The other one is just a basic felt bag, which works fine. This is just a nice bag. This will get a lot of chips in it, right? Because you just keep adding the chips throughout the whole game into the bag, So it's got a nice feel. You're always reaching into the bag. So I like this upgraded bag. But yeah, components are nice. I wish, like, they gave you a reference sheet for each arena, which is very nice. I wish there was a reference sheet for how to set up the Primus fights. And so instead of having to go into the rule book, they wouldn't put this lore on the back of the Scion thing. They could have just used that to put the remaining text that you constantly have to go back in the rule book to look for, right? Your heroes, starting units. I wish there was a card for that. And I wish there was a card for the Primus fights. Quality materials, top notch. Everything fits well in the box. This is the first game though, like I got the metal dice here, right? That's an add-on, obviously. I do like the metal dice. I like it, but is it really necessarily? No. This is the only chip theory game that I got so far that the dice just come in a bag. It's not in a dice tray. So that's something, but everything fits into the box. Keep in mind, this box is huge, like is very, very wide. And, right, so it's not very deep, but it is very, very wide. So that's quality materials. Learning the game, it's not bad. It's not bad. The game comes with the usual skill list, the type of the skill, what it does, how the rival will use it. It is very clear. There's not too many of them. And a lot of them show up fairly regularly. Some are more rare, should I say. So, again, not too bad. They all make sense. And this is nice to have. So ease of learning, not too bad. This little guide on the back of the rule book, really helpful for breaking down the turn structure. Yeah, overall, I'd say this is not a very complicated chip theory game to learn. I think it is less complicated than Burn Cycle. I think Burn Cycle was way more complicated to learn. Too Many Bones, maybe on par with Too Many Bones for learning. With the most complicated thing about this is the targeting and movement. Marking and targeting, movement phase, and attacking. That is the most complicated thing about this. Learning keywords, it's on there, you figure it out. But I had to go to BGG a couple times and be like, well, what if this, or what if that? So, wish maybe the rulebook had a couple more examples for kind of explaining that, but it's not bad. You'll get your way through it. It's definitely not impossible. So that's learning the game. It's okay. Artwork on the game, I like each of the different arenas. They all feel very different. They look different. I like the mat. The mat's got spaces for all the chips, the cards. It's well thought out design on it, right? So if I was going to complain one thing about the art though, it would be these terrible lines on this track. There are some spots where you just have to like really think, is that a line? Does that go there? It's confusing a little bit. So I think they could have did a better job at figuring out how to mark the line. I understand they want to try to keep the aesthetic, but over function, right? So, but other than that, everything is really, I love the chips, art on the chips. All the different factions are different. I think everything's very clear. The iconography is very clear. I guess that just leaves my final thoughts on the game. Do I like this game? Yes, I like this game. Is it worth $180 or whatever it's at for a solo game over other games? If you like this type of game, if you're into solo games, yes, this might be for you. If you do not play a lot of solo games, I would say no, this is not for you. I'd say this is a very niche game. And it's too bad because it is a really good game. But for the price point of it, it is a very niche game. I would say if you're a solo player that's occasionally played with another player and you want a chip theory game, go check out Too Many Bones. Plays great solo, plays great with another person, and way more developed, right? But if you are a heavy solo gamer, this is amazing. It is very thinky. All the arenas feel different. It's the abilities on the arenas, the different units. It is a fun adventure that lasts for hours, but not too long, right? So you're looking at about 3 hours per act. That's what I found. So you're looking at like 12 hours of gameplay per session. And that's if you don't die all the way up to the Primus. It's a tough game though. So you might die, especially if you're playing on normal mode or hard mode. Easy mode with the 8 blessings, you got like 8 gimmies to get back in the game. But I almost would just say play with the 8 blessings because you don't want to commit 10 hours and not get to the boss. And that's another problem of mine. This game takes 12 hours and you might not battle the Scion. Like there's so many Scions in this game that comes with, you might not see any of them. Well, you might not see the Scion. You might spend 10 hours, die, and then it's over. That's my complaint with this game is I wish you could get to the Scion sooner. I wish maybe there was only 2 acts. Maybe it overstays its welcome a little bit. I do enjoy getting there, but it's so long to get to see the Scion. And then the Scion, you don't really know how the Scion works until you fight it for the first time, which is probably going to kill you. And now you got to go and redo the whole thing just to get an idea. Now, that might be fine for some people. That's a lot of hours, and I specifically don't have all those hours to sit and really figure out each Scion before I get there, and that's kind of disappointing about that. So I wish there was a way you could shrink it down to maybe like 2 acts, and then you could get to fight the Scion. Because, you kind of, it's the same with Too Many Bones. You want to fight the tyrant. That's the whole goal of the game. You're trying to get to the boss. But with this, the goal of the game is not to kill the boss. The goal of the game is to enjoy the journey to the boss. And I think it does it well. I do enjoy the different sporting events. I do enjoy the bloodshed events. I almost prefer the bloodshed events because trying to get King of the Hill or capture the flag without the Tribune dying is difficult. But yeah, I really enjoy it. It's definitely niche. But I've sunk a lot of hours into this game already now. So, I'm still learning it, right? I've sunk a lot of hours, probably close to 20 hours already playing this. And they're still trying to figure out the priorities, still kind of trip me up once in a while, or I forget an ability. I'm very bad at trying to remember to deploy all the tactics. Sometimes because I get so focused on what's going here, and then I forget to deploy and I forget to use the tactic. So that's my bad. But it's a good game. It's a good game. It's an expensive game, and I think that's what's going to hold a lot of people away from playing this game is because it is so expensive for a solo game. But if you do take the dive, there is a lot of game in here to learn, and you won't regret it. Especially if you like Chip Theory's other games, you will not regret this game. So that is my thoughts on Hoplomachus Victorum. Maybe I'll do one for Cloudspire. Maybe I'll learn that one. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think. All right.